Yeah, you tuned into the right place. Welcome to the rain. Golden Queuing. H2.0. Yeah. You're looking for a diamond, found a treasure in the rough. Tired of all the noise, cause you finally had enough. I'm here to build a movement on a mission for the nation. Dropping gems of knowledge, killing all the hesitation. We fighting for the truth, yeah, we fighting for what's right. Building unity and shining up a brand new light. It's a variety channel, but the vision's crystal clear. Pushing us all forward, conquering the doubt and fear.
Welcome to the Queendom, H2.0 on your screen, where the content's real and smart and funny in between. This is more than just a stream, it's a platform for the change. Time to elevate the game and rearrange. If you're ready for a vibe that you can feel and trust, joining in the movement is a definite must.
This ain't just another channel talking smack behind the screen. It's a spotlight for the creators, building up a better scene. Spreading radical love, that's the message in the code. Helping everybody carry up a heavy load. From social justice issues to the laughter that we need. Planting seeds of progress, watch them grow from just a seed. This is authentic, this is raw, this is everything you saw. Welcome to the battle that is truly being fought.
Ooh, so come with your respect and see the real effect. Cause I protect my own right here on the throne. Don't make me envy. Unleash the dragon.
Subscribe, ring that notification bell. Yeah, you don't wanna miss a thing. Welcome to the family. Yeah.
We've been the blueprint. We've been the fire. They just catching up. Cold north wind, but she stood 10 toes. Mary and wrote true, let the whole world know. Ink hit paper, that was power in disguise. Taught us reading is the way we ride. Built the press, built the voice, built the lane. Why they hunted her, she broke every chain. Self-reliance, yeah, she stamped that code. Freedom ain't given, it's a path you won't. We ride. Carry the fire through the storm and pain. Crown and glory on been unchained. Black women built to respect the name. Jamaica hills, yeah, the spirit's alive. Queen Nanny move, make the empire high. Gorilla tactic, she was one with the land. Every move precise, yeah, she had the command. Queen. Drums in the wind, ancestors talk. Listen, freedom in the blood, every step that she walks. They couldn't catch her, now she moved too wide. Divine strategy, open your eyes, wake up. So loud, fanning loose good, made the system bow. Bruised and beaten, but she held that line. The truth don't fold and it don't decline ever. Sick and tired, yeah, she said it plain. Spoke for the people carrying pain. No crown needed, she was still that queen. Real leadership, that's what it means. Carry the fire to the storm and rain. Crown and glory on band unchained. London streets, young fire, no fear. Allen Morris made it crystal clear. Took them buildings, set this sauce now. For the people, she ain't backing down. Never. Boots on ground, real action talk. Short lifespan, but a giant walk. Left the mark, they can't erase in time. Never. Rebel spirit still in the bloodline. Still here. Parliament doors, Diane held strong. Only one there, but she still belong. Fact, decades deep, yeah, she paved that way. Paved it, held it open so we all can stay. Come through. Said it with a pen, yeah, she paint our truth. Right, it turned our life into literary proof. From the streets to the global stage, black stories gold on every page. We ride. From past to future, we break every chain. Crown and fire, unbent, untamed. Black women built and respect the name. We ride. From past to future, we break every chain. Crown and fire, unbent, untamed. Respect the name. Yeah. From ink to war to voice to pen, we always been her. Always. Don't forget again.
Hey y'all, what's up? It's your girl Golden, and I'm back with another video today, y'all. So I hope that you guys are all having a good day. It is about 2:50 p.m. here Eastern time in the Carolinas in the United States, and the weather today is really nice, y'all. It is warm outside, and child, I hope it stays this way because I am tired of the cold weather. The sun is shining bright, and it is a very lovely day. I hope you guys are having an excellent day in whatever respectful time zones y'all are in, whether it's morning, afternoon, evening, or night. And guess what, y'all? It's Friday. Move out the way. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, y'all, we made it to the end of the week. We still here. We still pushing. We still fighting. You know, we gotta count our blessings. You know what I mean? It's unfortunate some people may not can say that, but we are here. And so we will have a good time while we share this time together. So today, y'all, let me get into what this live is going to be about. As y'all can see, the title is Unbought and Unbossed. We're going to be talking about 5 Black women who changed and impacted the world globally. And so we'll be getting into each of these beautiful women's stories. Majority of these women are no longer with us. One, I believe, is still alive. Praise God for that. And we'll get into all of that. And we also, at the very end, we'll make some correlations of, current Black women that have picked up the baton and have now ran forward in the race in current day time, 2026. And so we want to pay homage and, give props to those women as well. But let me go ahead and give y'all a synopsis of what we'll be talking about and introduce each one of these women to y'all. So today we aren't just looking at history. We are looking at our mirror. From the cold winters of Canada to the lush mountains of Jamaica, and from the halls of London to the fields of Mississippi, Black women have been architects of freedom for a very, very long period of time. I want us to look at the diversity of the strengths when it comes to Black women. Some of us fight with the sword, some of us with the pen, some of us with the ballot. But today, we celebrate the global beauty of Black womanhood as a whole. So first, we'll be getting into Mary Ann Shadd Cary, who is from, or what they list as the Canadian pioneer. Okay, intellectual fearlessness is what she led with. Let's start from the north. Mary Ann Shadd Cary was a woman of pure fire. When the U.S. passed laws to hunt down escaped enslaved people, Mary Ann didn't just run. She built a fortress of information in Canada. She became the first Black woman in North America to edit and publish her own newspaper, The Provincial Freedom. She taught our people that literacy is liberty. She stood tall in the Canadian cold and told the world self-reliance is the true road to independence. She proves that our intellect has no borders. We also will be talking about Queen Nanny of the Maroons, the Caribbean warrior. Her energy was ancestral command and spiritual might. Let's feel the heat of Jamaica. Queen Nanny was a military genius who led a community of formerly enslaved people, known as Maroons, to total victory against the British Empire. She didn't just survive, she conquered. Using guerrilla warfare and her spiritual connection to the land, she kept her people free for decades in the Blue Mountains. She is a reminder that Black women are the original protectors. We are the strategists. We are the ones the empires can never catch. Then we'll be moving on to one that is probably more known to many of you all, Fannie Lou Hamer, the American soul. And her energy was unfiltered truth and grassroots power. Coming home to the U.S., we honor the Lady of Liberty herself, Fannie Lou Hamer. She was a sharecropper with a voice that could shake a mountain. She was beaten, jailed, and threatened, but she never lowered her volume. When she stood before the nation in 1964 and said she was sick and tired of being sick and tired, she wasn't just talking for herself. She was talking for every Black woman tired of being overlooked. She taught us that you don't need a title to lead. You just need a soul that refuses to bend. Then we'll move on to Olive Morris, the British radical. And her energy was community fire and youthful audacity. Across the Atlantic in the United Kingdom, we find the vibrant energy of Olive Morris. Imagine a young woman in the 1970s London who refused to see her community pushed aside. Olive was a co-founder of the Black women's movement in Britain. She famously climbed buildings to claim them as community centers and bookshops. She was a squatter for justice. She did pass away at only 27 years old, but she packed 100 years of fight into those 27 years of life. She represents the beauty of our boots on the ground, the Black women who protect the neighborhood and the community against all odds. And lastly, we will talk about two additional women, Diane Abbott and Zadie Smith, the UK power duo. And their energy was the prestige of the pen and the podium. In this duo, this defines modern Black British excellence. First, we have Diane Abbott, who in 1987 became the first Black woman to ever sit in the UK Parliament. For nearly 40 years, she has stood in rooms where she was the only one holding the door open for us with a steel spine. Alongside her, we celebrate Zadie Smith, the literary queen, who captured the soul of multicultural London in all of her novels. Zadie showed the world that our stories are high art. Together, these two show the global diversity of our success, from the halls of the government to the bestseller list when it comes to literature. We are everywhere. We are the elite. And so, y'all, I wanted to talk about these 5 women today on this live. And per usual, y'all know I have some audios and some videos to show y'all as we learn together more information about these 5 women. And per usual, as we watch, I will meet y'all in the chat so we can discuss it as a group. Thank you so much for joining. Hey, Monty, thank you for coming in. Mama is here as well, so she will be listening in. And anybody else who wants to come in and chit chat, or maybe you just want to stay in the background and listen, let's go ahead and get into it. So the first one we'll be starting with is Marianne. We'll go ahead and get this video up on the screen, y'all, so we can watch it together. And this will give us a little more insight and background of exactly who Marianne was and all that she did. And I know it's March, and people may say, oh, Black History Month is over. Well, when you are a Black person, woman or male, your history and your culture should not be condensed to just a month. So we can talk about this at any given time, and we can keep the knowledge moving strong. So let's go ahead and get into this video, y'all. I'm going to get everything set up. Give me just a sec, because you know how this stream y'all can be, y'all be moving slow. So let me get all of this up here. And like I said, I hope you guys are having a beautiful Friday. And I hope everybody is doing well. All right, y'all. Let's go ahead and get into this video, and I will meet y'all in the chat.
Wood splintering, beams twisting and failing. Too heavy to hold, this old house crashes to the ground. The past crushed. Somebody's memories exposed. 19th century secrets, long forgotten letters of African American refugees in Canada.
The caged bird sings with a fearful trill of things unknown, but longed for still, and his tune is heard on the distant hill, for the caged bird sings of freedom.
Mary Ann Camberton Shadd. Her story is not a new one. In 1856, at the grand age of 32, she marries Thomas F. Carey in St. Catharines in Canada West, what is today Ontario. They have 2 children, but Thomas dies before the second is born. Mary Ann has achieved much before becoming Mrs. Carey, and she will achieve a lot more after he dies. Born in Delaware to free-born African-American parents who are influential abolitionists, she's raised to be independent and to believe in herself. Her parents moved to Pennsylvania so their children can get an education.
She was the eldest child of Abraham Shadd, who come to Canada. They were in Delaware, and then they moved just about 5 miles. You could almost walk it. I've been to the area. Into Pennsylvania, which was a free state.
At age 17, Mary Ann leaves Pennsylvania and moves back to Delaware to teach school. At 26, she publishes the pamphlet Hints to the Colored People of the North. When she's 27, the U.S. Congress passes the Fugitive Slave Act, placing greater constraints and even risk of enslavement on free African Americans. The increasingly oppressive environment leads Marianne to emigrate at 28 to Canada West. Here, she starts a new school in Windsor for children of all races. 9 months later, she publishes a plea for emigration, or Notes on Canada West, for the information of colored immigrants. She quickly discovers that her strong views against Black segregation and her views on Black self-sufficiency differ from those of Black leaders in Canada West.
It is impossible to observe thoughtfully the workings of that incipient Zion, the Canadian African Church, of whatever denomination, in its present imperfect state, without seriously regretting that it should have been thought necessary to call it into existence. In her bosom is nurtured the long-standing and rankling prejudices and hatred against whites, without exception, that had their origin in American oppression, and that should have been left in the country in which they originated.
Marianne is strongly opposed to Black segregation in churches and schools. She's also strongly opposed to charity for Blacks, believing in the importance of Black self-sufficiency. In particular, she falls into a dispute with an African American who, like herself, recently immigrated to Canada. He is local Black newspaper publisher, community leader, and former slave, Henry Bibb. He uses his newspaper, The Voice of the Fugitive, to publicly disparage her views. As a consequence, her school loses funding and closes in 1853. But Marianne is not a person easily defeated. She launches her own newspaper, The Provincial Freeman.
She started out teaching in Windsor, and apparently she didn't like what she saw as far as what the Bibbs and others were getting involved in with the Refugee Home Society and begging for funds around North America to sustain this agricultural scheme. And that's how her animosity and her rift with the Bibbs and his allies began. And I think that's when she realized that having her own paper to be able to disseminate her viewpoints would be a really valuable thing to engage in.
She spends a tremendous amount of time raising money for the Provincial Freeman, as well as writing for and running the newspaper.
Reverend Mr. Ward, sir, Mr. and Mrs. William Still write that you are in debt 2 letters, and they wish, if you think proper, a reply to Johnson's letter.
My dear Shad, your kind letter of the 10th is before me.
Mr. John Brown of Hamilton will please pay to Right Reverend
Mrs. M.A.S. Carey, I take the opportunity of writing these few lines, hoping they will find you in good health.
She has a busy family life too, and part of her responsibilities include family correspondence, when she can find the time.
Dear brother, I heard you were in Buffalo. I have not time to...
My dear Marianne, I was struck panic on looking over the Standard of last Saturday to see it in...
Dear T, enclosed, please find a letter that came today for you.
110 years pass. In 1974, the former home of Marianne Shad Carey crashes to the ground. Only later do the owners, her descendants, realize what lies inside.
Well, I'm a great-great-great-great-grand-nephew about that long ago, so that would be the connection, the family connection. Probably the first we heard about her was when we started finding those letters that were addressed to her.
And as it turned out, the story is that Marianne Shad Carey lived in the house that we purchased. And that because she lived there for a while, some of her papers had been left there upstairs in the attic. We never ventured beyond the second floor into the attic. And the letters and various items were found between the beams. Apparently, they had just sort of been there, collected dust. Mice had chewed into some of the letters. And we didn't know any of this history until we found the letters. I was looking for old wood. And so I thought, oh, we have this torn out house right across the lane. So I went over there. And as I looked, I came across a letter. I couldn't resist taking it out and looking at it. And it was written by a young girl to a relative back in Buxton. And she was talking about buying shoes, and someone had a cold. And it was intriguing.
Dear Grandma, I received your letter some time ago and am glad to hear from you. I should have wrote sooner but was not very well. Everybody has been sick with a cold. Mama had the toothache all last week. We are getting along very poorly. I need shoes and Papa has not got enough money to buy any with. Mama said that she sends her love and would have wrote but had nothing interesting to write about. As you are so busy, answer when you can make it convenient. Please answer soon. Your loving granddaughter.
So I mentioned it to Ed. We mentioned it to his brother and his wife, who lived also on the same road next door, his sister and her husband, and everyone. We would spend hours over there digging through, trying to find whatever was available. But there were so many things that were buried because the house had been torn down by using a tractor and just pulling the studs out, I guess, and things that just sort of crumpled in 1974. But if only we had known that those things were up in the attic. You know, we would have gotten, I'm sure, so many more letters and so forth, but we had no idea. Never went up there, had no need.
So our cultural heritage is very fragile. Photographic negatives from the 1950s are particularly sensitive. Cellulose diacetate-based photography. Cellulose nitrate is probably the most famous volatile photographic substrate. Thinking about movie houses that burnt down because of overheated film projectors. That's probably the most extreme of examples.
I did research, as you know, on Hamilton, and was a man who was a slave, and he escaped and came to Canada West, and he was able to at some point buy a house and property. And in his will, one of the things he left his second wife was a group of photographs. But where those photographs are now, we will never know. But you know, as a researcher, we just love to be able to have those photographs of him, but we don't have them. And so you imagine that they were thrown out at some point, and it's just really, you know, it's tragic on some level, because you want to know what this person looked like, and you know, see him, but you're not able to.
Sometimes, though, gaps in the archival record came not from losses, but from the fact that the historical narratives were never recorded or weren't saved.
Many Black people were not very literate, and people who were not literate could not leave a written legacy. They didn't write in diaries, they didn't send letters, so it, you know, it would be difficult to know what was going on in any given family if nobody wrote anything down and left it for posterity. So, I mean, we as researchers, we look at the archival documents like the census and the city directories, and you know, the all of those kinds of things that kind of help us pinpoint where people were and what jobs they might have been engaged in and things like that. But to know like the inner life of a person, their thoughts and feelings, it's very difficult to know that because many people simply could not leave that kind of information behind. And another thing is people didn't think that was important enough to save, and so a lot of it got thrown out over time.
At times, however, gaps in the archival record resulted from the fact that the records were never collected within the archive. Much of Black history in Canada was ignored until the 1960s and 1970s, and did not gain real traction until the 1980s. In 1981, the U.S. Black Abolitionist Papers Project was started, resulting in an annotated collection of archival papers concerning Black history in the U.S. and Canada. Library and Archives Canada collected archival material with some Black content in the early part of the 20th century. However, it was not until the 1980s that it began actively collecting Black documentary history. One exception to this collection pattern was the Shad family papers. Library and Archives Canada began collecting her family's papers in 1960. The Mary Ann Shad letters that were discovered in the demolition rubble near Chatham were collected and stabilized at the Archives of Ontario in 1974.
It's often a business of opportunity, and the absence of certain narratives isn't necessarily a reflection on the lack of interest in the acquisition of narratives, but certainly with the burgeoning
All right, guys. Sorry about that. I was just having a quick sound issue. Let me know if y'all can hear me now. I fixed it. I really apologize for that. Child, I did not unmute the mic. But anyway, so as we can see in this video so far, y'all, there was a lot of great movements and changes that Marianne Shadd made, okay? And so, you know, one of the main things that we want to talk about is the action over talk. Marianne was famous for her bluntness. At just age 25, she wrote to the great Frederick Douglass and told him we should do more and we should talk less. She was frustrated with people just making speeches about slavery while our people were suffering. She teaches us that activism isn't just a post or a speech. It's the work you do when the cameras are not on. She started her newspaper, the Provincial Freeman, in 1853. And guess what? She actually hid her name from the front page. She knew that back in the 1800s, many people, even some of our own people, wouldn't read a paper that was edited by a woman. So she put a man's name in the mess thing just to get the truth out. But she was the one who was writing the fire. She teaches us that strategic humility, sometimes you have to move in silence to make the biggest noise. And then we have the self-reliance of it all. Her motto was, self-reliance is the true road to independence. She didn't want our people to just survive in Canada. She wanted us to own land, start businesses, and be independent of Caucasian charity. She even published a how-to guide for Black people moving to Canada so they wouldn't arrive unprepared. She was the original Buy Black and Build Black advocate. She knew that economic power was the key to true freedom. Then we have to talk about breaking the law school barrier. After the Civil War, Marianne didn't slow down. At age 60, she became one of the first Black women to earn a law degree from Howard University. She didn't do it for the title. She did it so she could legally fight for our right to vote. She teaches us that it is never too late to sharpen your tools. Whether you are 20 years old or 60 years old, your education is a weapon for your community. Then we have to talk about the steel spine against segregation. While many people at the time thought Black people should stay in their own separate corners to be safe, Marianne fought for integration. She opened one of the first racially integrated schools in Canada because she believed Black children deserve to be in every room and every space. She reminds us that we belong everywhere and there is no door that is not for us. So y'all, what do y'all think about Marianne? What is one thing that you are going to do this week to uplift another Black woman? Maybe we should stand by each other a little bit more and we can be promoted, or we can actually feel like that is something that's necessary after watching some of these historical videos and historical powerful women throughout history. But right now, we have reached the 39-minute mark. Are y'all hearing an echo? Does it sound really bad? Let me see if I can adjust my mic. While I do that, we're going to take a quick song break. And after we take the song break, we'll be moving on and speaking about the next woman we'll be talking about, which is Olive Morris. Let me go ahead and try to fix the mic, y'all. I'm going to put on a little bop for us, and I'll be right back.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let it ring out loud. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea, like the mighty waters. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. We remember it all. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Hope is alive, yeah. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on. Let's keep marching till victory is won. Stony the road we trod. Bitter the casting in rock. But we're still here. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let it ring out loud. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Like the mighty waters. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. We remember it all. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Hope is alive, yeah. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on. Let's keep marching till victory is won. Stony the road we trod. Bitter the casting in rock. But we're still here.
All right, y'all. So I think I got the mic back working properly. Y'all let me know if y'all can hear me. Let me know if it's an echo or if it sounds okay. I had to just reset it for a little bit, y'all. So I went ahead and played that song break while I was getting the mic set up. Hey, Carlos. What's up, baby? How you doing? Thanks for coming in. What's going on, boo? But yeah, so now we're going to go ahead and move on to the second woman we'll be talking about and learning about on the live. And this will be Olive Morris. So if anybody is out there and you ever felt like you were too young or too small to make a difference, we got to look at Olive Morris, okay? Now, this is a woman that was born in Jamaica and moving to South London at just age 9. Olive didn't just join a movement. She was the movement. At only 17 years old, she became a foundational member of the British Black Panther movement. She didn't stay in the back of the room either. She was on the front lines. There is a legendary story about Olive that we all need to remember. One day in Brixton, she saw a Nigerian diplomat being harassed and racially profiled by the police. Most people would have walked away in fear, but not Olive. At just age 17, she physically jumped into the fray to protect him. She was arrested, and of course, she was beaten for it, but that didn't break her. It galvanized her. Olive understood that if the system won't give you a house, you take the house. She became a squatter for justice, taking over empty buildings and turning them into Savar bookshops and community hubs where Black people could learn, eat, and organize. She co-founded the Organization for Women of Asian and African Descent, OWAAD, the first group of its kind to unite women across borders to fight for their specific rights. She passed away from non-Hodgkin lymphoma, I hope I said that right, at the tragically age of 27. But in those 27 years of her life, she did more for the Black British community than most do in a century. She taught us that the neighborhood is our responsibility. She showed us that Black women's place is wherever her people are hurting. Now, let's go ahead and get into this video that I want to show y'all. We'll watch this together and I'll meet y'all in the chat. And then I have a few talking points after that. Now, this one is a real quick one, y'all. It's really short, just about 3 to 4 minutes. So let's watch this together and we'll be right back.
Everyone, it's Tripti and today's doodle celebrate. Hello everyone, it's Tripti and today's doodle celebrate British activist Olive Morris on her 68th birthday.
Hold on, y'all. That's the wrong video. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to put that one up. Give me just a second. I clicked on the wrong one. Let me get the right one up. Y'all be right back.
Yeah. We've been the blueprint. We've been the fire. They just catching up. Cold Northwind, but she stood 10 toes. Marianne wrote true, let the whole world know. Ink hit paper, that was power in disguise. Taught us reading is the way we ride. Built the press, built the voice, built the lane. Why they hunted her, she broke every chain. Self-reliance, yeah, she stamped that code. Freedom ain't given, it's a path you won't ride. We carry the fire through the storm and pain. Crown and glory on been unchained. Black women built to respect the name. Jamaica hills, yeah, the spirit's alive. Queen Annie move, make the empire high. Gorilla tactic, she was one with the land. Every move precise, yeah, she had a command. Queen drums in the wind, ancestors talk. Listen, freedom in the blood, she walks. They couldn't catch her, now she moved too wide. Divine strategy, open your eyes, wake up. So loud, fanning loose good, made the system bow. Bruised and beaten, but she held that line. The truth don't fold and it don't decline ever. Sick and tired, yeah, she said it plain. Smoke for the people carrying pain. No crown needed, she was still that queen. Real leadership, that's what it means. To the song and play, crown and glory on band, unchained. Black women building respect the name. London streets, young fire, no fear. No fear. Ellen Morris made it crystal clear. Took them buildings, said this all's now. For the people, she ain't backing down. Never. Boots on ground, real action talk. Short lifespan, but a giant walk. Left them mark, they can't erase in time. Never. Rebel spirit still in the bloodline. Still here. Parliament doors, Diane held strong. Only one there, but she still belong. Fact, decades deep, yeah, she paved that way. Paved it, held it open so we all can stay. Come through, said it with a pen, yeah, she paint our truth. Right, it turned our life into literary proof. From the streets to the global stage, black stories gold on every page. From past to future, we break every chain. Crown and fire, unbent, untamed. Black women built it, respect the name. We rise, from past to future, we break every chain. Crown and fire, unbent, untamed. Respect the name. Yeah. From ink to war to voice to pen, we always been her. Always. Don't forget again.
All right, y'all. So I got the right video here now. So let's go ahead and get into it together, and I will meet y'all in the chat. Sorry about that. Let me go ahead and get this started. Here we go.
Hello and welcome to Thank You Thursday. Today we are talking about Olive Elaine Morris, born 1952, died 1979. Olive Elaine Morris was a black nationalist, community leader and activist based in Britain. She represented women of African and Asian descent and fought for squatters' rights in England. Morris was born in St. Catherine, Jamaica on the 26th of June 1952. Her mother was Doris Lewina, a factory shop steward, and her father was Vincent Nathaniel Morris, a forklift driver. Vincent and Doris came to England post-World War II in the Windrush generation, leaving Olive and one of her brothers with the grandmother. Age 9, Olive and her brother were brought to England to join the rest of the family in Lavender Hill, South London. She attended Hartbrook Primary School and went on to Lavender Hill Girls Secondary School before going on to Tulse Hill Secondary School. Olive left school without qualifications and went on to London College of Print. The African, Caribbean and Asian communities had a turbulent time in Britain in the 60s and 70s, contributed heavily by the Sus laws. The Sus laws were a stop and search law that gave police the power to stop and search anyone they deemed suspicious. Black communities were heavily targeted with this law. Ethnic communities were also targeted by fascist attacks from the National Front, as well as facing difficulties in unemployment and housing. This inspired Olive to become an organizer in the fight against racism and sexism in Britain. She was given a 3-month suspended sentence for 2 years and a £10 fine for intervening in the arrest of a Nigerian diplomat when police had used the Sus laws to stop and accuse him of stealing his car. Clement Gomwalk was dragged out of his Mercedes and beaten in front of a crowd. During this event, Olive was beaten beyond recognition by the police. the London police forced her to strip and threatened to rape her while she was in custody. She was charged with assaulting a police officer and possession of a dangerous weapon. Olive would go on to use this experience and others to expose the London police. Several black leaders and members of the Black Panther Party in America visited London and gave lectures, including Malcolm X in 1965 and Angela Davis in 1967. This inspired Black Britons to start a local movement. This was the birth of the British Black Panthers, whose headquarters was on Shakespeare Road, Brixton. This later became the Black Workers' Movement. Olive joined the British Black Panthers at age 17. She was also a founder of Brixton Black Women's Group. Olive was also a member of the squatting movement. She was a squatter herself and squatted at 121 Railton Road in 1973. This was the home of Saba Bookshop, one of the first black community bookshops. It was also an organizing center for BASH, which was a community group which stood for Blacks Against State Harassment. It was a community center and the headquarters for the squatters movement. Olive obtained a social degree in social science after enrolling in the University of Manchester in 1975. She continued her activist work there, working with the National Coordinating Committee overseas students. She also founded the Manchester Black Women's Cooperative and Black Women's Mutual Aid Group. Olive also established a supplementary school after she had campaigned with black parents for better education provisions. She gained the opportunity to visit China, where she wrote an article named A Sister's Visit to China in 1977. It was published in Speak Out newsletter and touched upon self-help, community struggle, and anti-imperialist struggles. On Olive's return to Brixton, she became a founding member of the Organization for Women of African and Asian Descent in 1978. She also edited the organization's magazine called Forward. Shortly after, Olive became ill during a trip to Spain. When she returned, she was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. She died on 12th of July 1979 at St. Thomas Hospital. Lambeth Council named one of its key buildings after her in 1986. She also appeared on the Brixton £1 note, which is a local currency. In 2011, the Morris Memorial Award was launched, which gives bursaries to young black women. A huge memorial was painted in Blenheim Gardens in Brixton, titled Say It Loud, painted by Breeze Yoko. Olive Elaine Morris was a radical black feminist that fought for the rights and preservation of culture in ethnic minorities. In the words of Olive Morris, black women, fight now for the future of your kids. Black suffering. Fight police brutality. My heart will always be in Brixton. I would like to say thank you to Olive Elaine Morris. You definitely made the world a better place. Peace.
All right, y'all. So that was just a quick little video that I wanted to show y'all about Olive Morris. And I do have some, final thoughts here that I wanted to go ahead and share with you guys from my perspective. How I'm, seeing it, feeling it, loving it. Okay. I want us to really sit with the weight of what Olive Morris did. We aren't just talking about a girl who liked to protest. We're talking about a woman who understood that power is taken and never given. The moment Olive built was about sacred ground. In 1970s London, the system wanted Black people to be invisible. They wanted us to work the jobs nobody wanted and then disappear into the shadows. But Olive said no. She looked at the abandoned buildings of Brixton that were cold, empty, and forgotten, and she saw hearth and home. She was a squatter for justice. Think about that energy. She didn't wait for a bank loan. She didn't wait for a permit. She climbed through a window and changed the locks because she knew that our people needed a place to breathe. She turned those illegal spaces into the bookshops where black children could walk in and see a book with a face that looked like theirs for the very first time. Her movement was powerful because it was fearless. When she co-founded the Organization for Women of Asian and African Descent, she was telling the world that Black women are the bridge. She brought sisters together from across the globe to say, we are the ones who hold the community together, so we will be the ones who lead it. The importance of Olive Morris is this. She taught us how to occupy space, not just physical space, but mental and political space. She proved that 100 people with conviction are more powerful than 1,000 people with just an opinion. She was only 5'2", y'all, but when she walked into a room, the room had to expand to fit her spirit. She did unfortunately pass away at 27 years old, but the movement she ignited is immortal. Every time a Black woman starts a community garden, every time we open a Black-owned bookstore, every time we stand between a brother and a badge, that is Olive Morris breathing through us. She was our Brixton Panther. She was our architect of the streets. She was the proof that a Black woman's love for her people is the most revolutionary force on this planet. Y'all let me know what y'all think about that. But we are now going to go ahead and get into our next woman topic. And this one is probably one that more people may historically know, more than the other two that we've already covered. But this is Fannie Lou Hamer. We're going to go ahead and get into some information about her, y'all. So give me just a second, and I'm going to get that video pulled up for y'all, okay? I will be right back, and let me know what y'all think about this live, if you're enjoying it, if you're learning anything, if you like any of the music that we're playing. I really appreciate all of the feedback and support. Let me go ahead and play this song for us, because I want us to remember with these songs, right? They are strength songs, resilient songs, inclusive songs, to remind us that we're here, we're supposed to be here, and we will continue to be here with the knowledge and the wisdom, the power, and the strength that we have. And what we bring to the table is absolutely necessary, and we will continue to stand, fight, and speak. So let me get all of these videos set up here for y'all guys, and I will be right back.
Oh, say, can you see? Look up, child. By the dawn's early light, it's a new day. What so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming. Hold your head. Whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight. Through the perilous fight. All the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming. And the rockets' red glare, let it shine. The bombs bursting in air, we won't back down. Gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, it's still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave?
Wait for justice.
Down
All right, y'all. So let's go ahead and get into it. So we're gonna be talking about, and I have, like I said, a video to play for y'all when it comes to Fannie Lou Hamer. Okay. So let's give a little brief synopsis of who she was, right? So now we're going to the home of the red clay of Mississippi to honor a woman who was the definition of unbought and unbossed. Fannie Lou Hamer was the 20th child of a sharecropper. She spent most of her life picking cotton, working under a system that tried to break her back and silence her soul. But in 1962, at the age of 44, Fannie Lou Hamer attended a meeting about the right to vote, and a fire was lit that could never be put out. When she went to register to vote, she was fired from her job of 18 years and kicked off the plantation that same very night. They took shots at the house where she stayed. They arrested her, and they beat her so badly in the jailhouse that she suffered permanent kidney damage and a limp for the rest of her life. But listen to the pride in this story. They couldn't beat the yes out of her spirit. Fannie Lou Hamer didn't have a law degree, but she had a truth that made the White House tremble. In 1964, she stood before the Credentials Committee at the Democratic National Convention and told the world what it was like to be Black in America. She was so powerful, so raw, and so honest that President Lyndon B. Johnson called an emergency press conference just to knock her off the television screens. He was terrified of her voice, but it didn't work. Her testimony was played on the news later that night, and the whole world heard her ask, "Is this America, the land of the free and the home of the brave?" She taught us that our power isn't just in a ballot, it is in our land. She started the Freedom Farm Cooperative, buying up land so Black families could grow their own food and build their own houses. She knew that if you can feed yourself, you can free yourself. She is the woman who famously said, "I am sick and tired of being sick and tired." She wasn't just talking about being sleepy. She was talking about the exhaustion of injustice. And she decided that if she was going to be tired, she was going to be tired while fighting. So let's go ahead and get into this video, y'all. I'm going to watch it together with y'all, meet y'all in the chat, and then we'll have a few final thoughts after this. Let's go ahead and get into it.
Fannie Lou Hamer was a force to be reckoned with, enduring intractable racism, police beatings, and even forced sterilization. She never stopped working for equal voting rights for all. This is the tragic real-life story of Fannie Lou Hamer. Born on October 6, 1917 in Montgomery County, Mississippi, Fannie Lou was the 20th and youngest child of Lou Ella and James Townsend. Both Luella and James worked as sharecroppers their entire lives. When Fannie Lou was just 6 years old, she joined them despite having endured a bout of polio just a year earlier. Hamer was 8 years old in 1925 when she saw Joe Pullum, a local sharecropper, lynched. In an interview with Jack Odell in 1965, she said, "I remember that until this day, and I won't forget it." Poverty forced Hamer to drop out of school at the age of 12. And by the age of 13, she was picking as much as 400 pounds of cotton in a day and receiving $1 for her work. Since Hamer had learned how to read and write during her brief time in school, she also worked as a record keeper on the plantation and soon discovered just how the owners would cook the books to cheat the poor sharecroppers out of their fair wages. To offset this, Hamer began secretly tilting the scales to ensure people weren't cheated. She later recalled, "I didn't know what to do, and all I could do was rebel in the only way I could rebel." In 1944, Fannie Lou married Perry Pap Hamer, a tractor driver on a local plantation. 17 years later, in 1961, she underwent surgery to remove a small cyst in her stomach. When she woke, she discovered that she'd also been given a hysterectomy without her consent. According to PBS, this type of forced sterilization was so common at the time that it became referred to as a Mississippi appendectomy, a term coined by Hamer herself. On June 8, 1964, Hamer testified before a panel in Washington, D.C. that at the North Sunflower County Hospital, 6 out of the 10 Negro women that go to the hospital are sterilized with the tubes tied. Forced sterilizations have a dark history and an equally dark present in the United States. Indiana passed the first forced sterilization law in 1907. And while they hit their peak in the 1930s and 1940s, targeting those deemed to be criminals or unfit by the 1950s, sterilization laws started targeting welfare recipients as well. Forced sterilizations were frequently racially motivated. This became abundantly clear when Mississippi proposed a bill that would make it a felony for a parent on welfare to have more than one child. Jail time could be avoided if the parent consented to sterilization. Ultimately, sterilization was removed from that bill, but untold women like Hamer still were sterilized without their consent. On August 31st, 1962, Hamer and 17 others went to the courthouse in Indianola, Mississippi to register to vote. According to PBS, most of the group was blocked from even attempting to register. Only Hamer and one other man were allowed to fill out an application and take a literacy test. At the time, literacy tests were purposefully designed to keep Black people from voting. And when Hamer was asked to explain de facto laws, she later recalled that, "I knowed as much about a facto law as a horse knows about Christmas Day." After failing the literacy test, the group was denied the right to register to vote. On the way home, their bus was stopped by police and fined $100 for being too yellow. Then the persecution got worse. The owner of the plantation where Hamer worked and lived demanded that she withdraw her application to vote.
Mr. Marlowe told me that I would have to go down and withdraw my registration or leave because they wasn't ready for that in Mississippi.
Hamer refused and was immediately thrown off the plantation where she had lived and worked for 18 years. She temporarily stayed with a friend before finding a new home, and just narrowly missed being murdered by those who were trying to suppress the Black vote.
They shot in the house 15 times thinking that I was there.
On January 10, 1963, Hamer was finally able to pass the literacy test. According to The Nation, after her second attempt on December 4th, she told the registrar, quote, "You'll see me every 30 days till I pass." A month later, she passed. But despite now being registered to vote, she discovered that she still wasn't allowed to vote because she didn't have any poll tax receipts. In some parts of the United States, people were required to pay a tax in order to vote. A tax put in place to ensure that the poorest people, who were often people of color, didn't get a voice in the government. And they weren't subtle about this fact either. For instance, in 1939, Alabama's Tuscaloosa News published an editorial that read in part, "This newspaper believes in white supremacy, and it believes that the poll tax is one of the essentials for the preservation of white supremacy." In 1962, the United States passed the 24th Amendment, which outlawed poll taxes for federal elections. Despite this, Hamer was still denied the right to vote a year later because it wasn't really enforced until 1965. And to this day, 8 states, including Mississippi, still haven't ratified the amendment. While Pap worked to pay off their sharecropping debt at the plantation, Hamer continued working toward voter registration and desegregation. On June 9, 1963, Hamer and 9 other activists were returning on a bus from a voter registration and civic education training session in Charleston, South Carolina. The activists had tried to integrate lunch counters at the various bus stations along their way home, and their protests had enraged their bus driver. According to Fannie Lou Hamer, America's Freedom-Fighting Woman by Megan Parker Brooks, the driver began using the phone at every stop, reporting their location to Mississippi police. In Winona, Mississippi, police arrested at least 6 of the activists, even those who'd remain on the bus, and took them to jail. Hamer and her fellow activists weren't released from jail until June 12th. And in those 3 days, Hamer sustained such severe and prolonged beatings that she suffered from lifelong damage to her kidneys, eyes, and legs. In addition to beating the activists themselves, police also forced the other Black people who were also imprisoned in the jail at the time to beat the activists as well. While there was later a brief trial, the police were cleared for their actions. After several failed attempts to work with the all-white pro-segregation Mississippi Democratic Party, Hamer co-founded the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party, and in 1964, she went to the Democratic National Convention in an attempt to get representation. As a result, she received death threats. When she reported them to the police, they told her, quote, "Don't look to us for help. On August 22, 1964, Hamer testified before the Credentials Committee at the Democratic National Convention. She started by stating her full name and home address, defiantly signaling her fearlessness to every white supremacist. According to the Washington Post, President Johnson was terrified that her testimony at the convention would break up the coalition of white Southern delegates he needed to get elected. He tried to convince her not to speak, but when she did anyway, he abruptly called a pointless live press conference so the TV broadcast would have to cut away from Hamer's testimony. It backfired, bringing more media attention to Hamer's testimony than it otherwise might have gotten, with many evening news programs giving full coverage of the speech that Johnson had interrupted.
Because our lives be threatened daily. Because we want to live as decent human beings in America.
As a result of pressure from President Johnson and Vice Presidential candidate Hubert Humphrey, the convention refused to accept Hamer as an official delegate. Instead, officials offered a farcical compromise to the MFDP. They'd be allowed 2 delegates, but they could neither sit in the Mississippi section, nor would they be able to cast votes. Oh, and neither one of those seats were allowed to go to Hamer. Why? According to Humphrey, the president has said he will not let that illiterate woman speak on the floor of the Democratic Convention. The Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party voted unanimously to reject the administration's compromise. In Hamer's words, quote, "We didn't come all this way for no 2 seats. They returned to Mississippi, shut out once again by a process meant to empower them." In 1964, Hamer also ran unsuccessfully for Congress. According to an interview with Jack Odell, Hamer recalled that it was harder for her to pass the literacy test in order to register to vote than it was for her to qualify to run for Congress. And despite being barred from the official ballot, the MFDP gave out freedom ballots that included candidates of all races. According to Smithsonian Magazine, after her first bid was unsuccessful, Hamer ran for office 2 more times in 1967 and 1971. Unfortunately, her 1967 run was disqualified on a technicality, and she lost to the incumbent in 1971. She did have one moment of triumph, though. In 1968, the Democratic Party began requiring equal representation for state delegations, and she finally was recognized as an official delegate from Mississippi at the National Democratic Party Convention. She used her platform to protest the ongoing war in Vietnam. Seeing that not much progress was being made on the political front, Fannie Lou Hamer turned most of her attention toward economic justice as a way to fight for racial equality. In 1969, Hamer founded the Freedom Farm Cooperative in order to provide Black people with land that they could own and farm collectively. With the help of donors such as the Measure for Measure organization and Harry Belafonte, by 1970, the co-op had amassed 680 acres for cultivation. Membership for the co-op was $1 a month, and even though only 30 families could afford the dues, those who couldn't pay weren't excluded. Roughly an additional 1,500 families were also part of the Freedom Farm Cooperative in name. In 1970, the collective also started a pig bank for impoverished families. With help from the National Council of Negro Women, the collective purchased 5 male pigs and 35 female pigs, and over the next 3 years, thousands of pigs made their way to Black families. Hamer especially loved the pig bank, stating that, quote, "I wouldn't take nothing for our golden pigs." Unfortunately, without institutional backing or resources, the Freedom Farm Collective only lasted a handful of years, but at its height, it was one of the largest employers in Sunflower County, Mississippi. According to the Center for Constitutional Rights, Hamer was actually partly responsible for the Voting Rights Act's passage thanks to her 1965 civil rights case, Hamer versus Campbell. Brought against the Circuit Clerk of Mississippi for restricting Black people's right to register and vote, Hamer's victory in court even allowed the elections to be overturned due to their discriminatory practices. Even after the Voting Rights Act was finally passed in 1965, Fannie Lou Hamer continued to focus on equal voting rights. Despite the federal protections that the Voting Rights Act claimed to guarantee, though, white people in power continued to try to prevent Black people from registering and voting. Still, she fought on. According to PBS, in 1970, Hamer organized plaintiffs for a class action lawsuit regarding school desegregation in Sunflower County. This suit resulted in the district court ordering the county to merge its segregated schools into a single public school system. Fannie Lou Hamer's health suffered during her final years. In 1976, she was diagnosed with breast cancer and underwent a radical mastectomy. She continued her civil rights work as long as she could, but as her health worsened, fundraising and public speaking became more and more difficult. Hamer died on March 14, 1977. Her life cut tragically short at the age of 59. Hundreds of people came to pay their respects, but some regretted the media circus that transpired. According to Fannie Lou Hamer, The Life of a Civil Rights Icon by Ernest N. Bracey, some of her fellow activists believed that dignitaries looking for a photo op ended up overshadowing coverage of Hamer's life and work, and the mourning being done by her real friends, family, and neighbors. Hamer was buried at the Freedom Farm Cooperative, and her gravestone bears her famous motto,
We are sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more grunge videos about your favorite stuff are coming soon. Subscribe to our...
Wow, wow, wow. How powerful. How powerful. What exactly, Asher? What an exceptional woman. And y'all, come on. How many times have we been somewhere, maybe crunched up in the corner, laying in the couch, crouched down on our knees, praying with tears in our eyes, literally just saying that we are tired of being sick and tired. And when we watch the state of the world right now, the state that people are in right now in 2026, all of these years later, after these movements and after these historic people fought and put their lives on the line, so today will be different. And we see that it's starting to resemble what it was back then, or they at least are trying to take us back. We can't allow that to happen. We can't allow that to happen, and we have to fight in any way that we see fit, and whatever it is that we can do in this fight. And as we see, a sharecropper daughter that worked on a cotton field changed history for us, for the people that were going to come in the future. And we have to do that for our children and our youth that's coming up behind us. It's up to us to fight, to speak up, to change things, so their tomorrow doesn't look like our today. That's important to me. And I see that we're making great progress in doing that. It may not seem like it. It may seem like they're winning. It may seem like the small strides that we're making are not making a difference, but they are. And we must stick with it. And the most important thing is we must stick together, united. So excuse me, I apologize. But anyway, so let's go ahead because we're going to be moving into the next beautiful woman we'll be talking about. But just a few final thoughts of mine as we talk about Fannie Lou Hamer. She proves that the most dangerous thing to a broken system is a Black woman who has decided she is no longer afraid. Fannie Lou didn't have $1 million or a fancy title. She had a sick and tired soul and voice that sounded like the very earth itself. When they beat her, she sang. When they shot her, she organized. When the president of the United States tried to cut her off, she became the only thing the world wanted to hear. She taught us that freedom is a collective work. She didn't just vote for herself. She wanted land, food, education, freedom for all of us. She is the reminder that our power doesn't come from the buildings we sit in, but from the truth that we stand on. Fannie Lou Hamer is our American matriarch of resistance. She is the proof that you can start in a cotton field, but you can end up changing laws of a nation. And yes, we will continue to carry her in our spirit. And now we'll be moving along to the next queen. Okay, so travel with me, y'all, because we're going on a journey. We're going to be leaving the fields of Mississippi, We're going to be heading over to the lush, mist-covered blue mountains of Jamaica. We're going back to the 1700s to meet a woman who didn't just fight for freedom, but commanded it. And her name is Nanny. But history knows her as Queen Nanny of the Maroons. She wasn't just a leader. She was a master strategist, a spiritual visionary, and a military genius. While empires were trying to chain our people, Nanny was building a sovereign nation in the mountains. She led a community of formerly enslaved people, the Maroons. And for years, she made the British Army the most powerful military in the world at the time. Looked like they were amateurs. They couldn't touch her. They couldn't find her. They couldn't catch her. And they certainly couldn't defeat her. Nanny didn't just survive in the wilderness. She turned the wilderness into a weapon. She used the trees, the wind, and the very spirit of the ancestors to keep her people free. She's the only woman that's been named as a national hero of Jamaica. And she stands as the ultimate symbol of Black female sovereignty. So let's go ahead and get into it. Get ready, because we're talking about a woman who proved that Black women are the original protectors of the lineage. We are talking about the queen who caught the bullets and threw them back at the enemy. So let's go ahead and get into this next video, y'all. Let me go ahead and put this up on the screen for you. And we will watch this together. And I'm sorry I was having a moment just there. But I do this type of content, and I really do talk about these things with a level of passion, because it's not fake, it's not forced, it's not for content. It's in my heart, it's in my spirit. I carry it in my soul. And it really matters to me. And I know it matters to all of us. And so let's go ahead and get into this video. I will meet y'all in the chat per usual, and I'll catch up on some of y'all comments.
Who really was Nanny of the Maroons? What was her birth name? Who was her husband? Did she have children? These are the questions I will be answering in this short documentary, so we can have a better understanding of the person celebrated as the national heroine of Jamaica. But before we move on to Queen Nanny's name and family history, let's talk about the depiction of Nanny on the $500 note. Now, due to the fact that we do not have a physical depiction of Nanny of the Maroons, many of you may have wondered how the image on the Jamaican $500 note came about. So let me shed some light on this quickly. When Nanny was named a national hero in 1975, there were no records of how she actually looked. And up to this day, uncertainty still surrounds Nanny's image. However, it is documented that she was a small, wiry woman with piercing eyes. Claude Gale, then a young scholar of the Jamaica School of Art, responded to a request from Principal Jerry Craig for students to conceptualize a representation of Nanny. They were to draw on their own knowledge of history to influence their work, and that was all the instructions given. The lady whose image has been used to represent Nanny is actually a St. Elizabeth resident, living around 25 minutes from a compound. A quietly unsung hero, as teachers are, she helped, guided, and mentored scores of people who have made a mark on the parish, nation, region, and the world during the years she taught there. In case you missed it, Olive Bowen, back then a student of the Jamaica School of Art, now Edna Manley College, was the model chosen by her fellow undergraduate as they competed to produce the best image to capture Queen Nanny's essence. The young art student, Claude Gale, received a token of $30 Jamaican for his efforts. And that winning drawing came to be accepted as Nanny, Queen of the Maroons. A copy of the original with the scribbling winner in one corner still remains in Gale's possession. Then, in 1994, with increasing devaluation came the $500 note, with Nanny's head wrapped image. While Gale's representation of Nanny varies slightly from that on the currency, it is his drawing commissioned by the Agency for Public Information, or API, that formed an inspiration. So, did you know that about the $500 note? Let me know in the comment section below. And as we delve deeper into Queen Nanny's remarkable journey, let's not just be passive listeners, but active participants in honoring her legacy. Share this video with friends and family to spread awareness about Jamaica's national heroine and the rich history of the Maroons. Remember to hit the like button if you are finding this content enlightening, and subscribe for more insightful historical narratives. Your engagement and support are vital in preserving the celebrating of the stories of those who have shaped our world. So, who really was Nanny? Queen Nanny, or Grande Nanny, was the daughter of Prince Naquan, an Asante prince from southern Ghana. Prince Naquan came to Jamaica in 1642 as part of a business excursion with Spanish merchants. However, he was double-crossed, and he and his men were sold into slavery by the same merchants. A few months later, however, he managed to escape with 600 of his men and found refuge in the Blue Mountains, where they met the existing Taino Maroons who had escaped to the hills from the time of Christopher Columbus. Now, Queen Nanny was born free in the Blue Mountains of Jamaica in 1686. Let me repeat that. Queen Nanny was born free in the Blue Mountains of Jamaica in 1686. I have not been able, however, to verify the exact date. Although there were a number of Taino, Carib, and Spanish Maroons, the Coromantee population was dominant in the Maroons, so Nanny grew up in a large Akan community that was recreated in Jamaica. And remember her father, Prince Naquan? Well, he was now referred to as King Naquan, and he ensured his kids grew up the Akan way. Queen Nanny had 7 brothers and possibly 1 sister named Sikasu. Her brothers were Kojo, Akompong, Johnny, Kofi, Kwaho, Kwashi, and Kwako. While I can't verify what order she was born, scholars believe she was either born 3rd after Kojo and Akompong or 5th before Kwashi and Kwako. Many people still believe that Maroon means runaway slave, but that's not true, because many Maroons were born as free people in the mountains of Jamaica, such as Queen Nanny. The word Maroon is an English corruption of the word Morano, which is a derogatory Spanish Portuguese term for Israelites, calling them pigs. And this can be found in a book called The Analytical Review of Our History of Literature, Domestic and Foreign. Queen Nanny's birth name was not well known, as she was born in the mountains. However, some Maroon sources claim that her name was Abena Pokwa, spelled Abenapokua, which could be true, as it is a popular name up to this day in Ghana. And also, I find more historical records referring to that name. But according to another Maroon source, Nanny's name is also Sarah Matilda Rowe. But this is not verified. However, some of the Rowe family in Jamaica claim to be direct descendants of Queen Nanny. According to oral history, her second husband was named Swipplemento, spelled Swipplemento, later known by the anglicized name of Rose Harris, and affectionately called Parrose, then Parro. Queen Nanny was called Shanty Rose or Maro. Oral tradition says the Ro was then anglicized to Ro. That's R-O was then anglicized to R-O-W-E. Although we know that many late 18th century Maroons changed their names to European ones or were converted to Christianity. Queen Nanny had 4 children, 3 boys and 1 girl. She had 1 boy named Kwashkwaku, spelled Kwashkwaku, for her first husband, a Maroon man named Adu, spelled Adou. Her children with Swipplemento are 2 sons named Kojo and Akompong, while who she named after her brothers, and a daughter who she named after herself, Nanny. Queen Nanny's military tactics. The Windward Maroons succeeded against a much superior and better armed enemy, the British. One of their advantages was their long-range communications capability, using what they called an abeng. The abeng was a crucial communication tool used by the Maroons, including Queen Nanny, during their resistance against the British in Jamaica. It was a cow horn with a hole drilled in one end, allowing for a long-range communication across rugged terrain. Maroon lookouts would blow specific signals through the abeng, which were understood by their fellow Maroons but not by the British forces. These signals served various purposes, such as alerting the community to potential threats, coordinating movements during battles, or signaling the arrival of allies or messengers. The abeng played a vital role in the Maroon warfare, providing them with a strategic advantage by enabling swift, efficient communication over considerable distances, contributing to their successful resistance efforts. Nanny's troops were also masters of camouflage. The soldiers were so proficient at disguising their location that the British would circulate tales of trees in the forest becoming alive and cutting one's head off. Besides the physical aspects of camouflage, the Maroons became experts in slowing their breathing so as not to reveal their presence to someone in their vicinity. They also developed ways of creating stealthy fires that were not readily visible. The Maroons were the innovators of guerrilla warfare. They used surprise, the knowledge of the terrain, and the cleverly chosen positions in their fight against the British. Their village was located in rugged territory with only one way in. That one way in was a narrow path that was only wide enough for one person. Soldiers trying to attack a raid in a single file were easily ambushed. To heighten the enemy's fear, Nanny's forces never killed all of the attacking forces. She would always allow a soldier to live to return to base to relay the story and horror of the encounter. When the British signed a treaty with Kodja in 1739, this success allowed them to offer a less favorable treaty to the Windward Maroons. Representatives of the British governor in Jamaica signed a treaty with the Windward Maroons in 1740. Between the colonial authorities and Kwawu, who later became one of the leaders of Crawford Town, this treaty between the colonial authorities and Kwawu's Maroons made no mention of how much land would be allocated to Crawford's Town. As a result, a number of disputes occurred between planters and the Maroons of Crawford's Town, and later the succeeding towns of Charlestown in Scotsall. In response, the Assembly of Jamaica had to resolve the land disputes in favor of the Maroons in order to keep the peace. In addition, later that year, there was a separate land grant signed with Nanny and the Maroons of Nanny Town, which granted Nanny and the people now residing with her and their heirs a certain parcel of land containing 500 acres in the parish of Portland. This land patent consisted of 500 acres, 2.4 kilometers squared, of land granted by the government to the Maroons of the new Nanny Town under a separate 1740 document ending the First Maroon War. The rebuilt Nanny Town, later called the Moore Town, was built on that location. In 1781, the Assembly agreed to purchase another additional 500 acres from neighboring planter Charles Douglas to increase Moore Town's communal land to 1,000 acres. The new Nanny Town Maroons, like those of Kodja and Kwawu on the western side of the island, agreed not to harbor new runaway slaves, but to help catch them for bounties. They were also expected to fight for the British in the case of an attack from the French or Spanish. In signing treaties with the Maroons, the British not only made a truce with a troublesome foe, but also enlisted that foe in capturing runaway slaves. The colonial authorities initially recognized two Maroon towns, Crawford's Town and Kodja Town, later to be renamed Trelawney Town. Eventually, there were 5 Maroon towns in the 18th century: a compound town, Trelawney Town, Charlestown, Scotsall, and Nanny Town, later called Moore Town, living under their own chiefs with a British supervisor in each town. In the Journal of the Assembly of Jamaica for March 29 to 30, 1733, there is a citation for resolution, bravery, and fidelity awarded to loyal slaves under the command of Captain Sambo, namely William Coffey, who was awarded to have fought the Maroons in the First Maroon War and is called, quote, a very good party Negro, having killed Nanny, the rebels' old witch, end quote. But I don't think that's possible because there is evidence that Moortown was granted to the Maroons under her leadership in 1740. So she couldn't dead in a 1733. Some scholars claim that Queen Nanny lived to be very old, dying of natural causes in the 1760s. That exact date remains a mystery. Another element of confusion is that many high-ranking women in Moortown were called Nanny. However, the Maroons are sticking to their guns that it was only one Queen Nanny. According to Maroon oral history, though, the remains of Queen Nanny were laid to rest at a place called Bumpgrave in Moortown in the parish of Portland. Queen Nanny of the Maroons left behind a lasting legacy that continues to resonate in Jamaican history and culture. Her fearless leadership and strategic military tactics not only secured freedom for her people, but also inspired future generations to stand against oppression and fight for justice. As Jamaica's only female national hero, Queen Nanny symbolizes strength, resilience, and the power of unity. Her legacy extends beyond the Maroon communities, influencing various aspects of Jamaican society, including art, literature, and music. Through educational initiatives and commemorations, Queen Nanny's legacy is preserved and celebrated, ensuring that her remarkable achievements and contributions to the island's history are never forgotten. I hope you learned something from this short documentary, and I would really appreciate you sharing the video as well, because the educational system in Jamaica does not really teach the real history of the island. If you're interested in seeing more historical content, please subscribe, and thank you for watching.
All right, y'all. So I hope y'all enjoyed that content there in that video, which I really did, because I'm learning on some of these great women historically as well as we go together. And I like to make my content like that because I'm not a professor or a teacher or anything. I think it's important for us to learn about different cultural histories, dynamic history when it comes to pertinent people, women, men, and all different nationality and backgrounds, right? But I wanted to do this type of content because I thought it was important for us to bring this type of pride and this type of knowledge to the forefront and to the platform. And so, yeah, when it comes to Queen Nanny of the Maroons, okay, when we look at her, we aren't just looking at a rebel, okay? We're looking at a general here. That's what it was giving. Think about the sheer audacity it took for Nanny to look at the British Empire, the wealthiest, most heavily armed machine on the planet at that time, and say, "You will not set foot on this mountain." She didn't just hide in the Blue Mountains. She turned the very earth into an ally. She taught her warriors to dress in the leaves and the vines so they can become the forest itself. She was the original master of the invisible war. The power of Nanny's movement was that it was unapologetically African. She brought the military strategies and the spiritual wisdom of the Ashanti people across the ocean, and she planted them in Jamaican soil. She proved that even when even when they try to take our bodies, they cannot take our lineage or our ancestral genius. But here's the ultimate pride point. She forced the enemy to sign on the dotted line. 1739. The British had to admit that they could not beat her. They signed a treaty and they gave the Maroons their own land and their own government. Nanny didn't ask for a seat at the table. She took the whole mountain and built her own kingdom. She's the only woman to be a national hero of Jamaica, and her face is on the $500 Jamaican bill today. They call it a nanny. She is more than a face of currency, though. She is the spirit of the unconquered. She reminds all of us that we have a blue mountain inside of us, a place of such high vibration and such deep strength that no enemy can reach it. Queen Nanny is our mother of resistance. She is the proof that when a Black woman leads with her ancestors on her back, she is an army of one. She caught the bullets, she kept the land, and she saved the soul of a nation. So now, we got two more great women that we'll be speaking about. Before we get into that, y'all, we are going to just take a very short, quick song break. And we will be right back, and we'll be talking about Diane Abbott, and we also will be talking about Zadie Smith. Both Black women who originate in the UK, United Kingdom. One being an author, the other one an activist in politics. And so we will be getting into those two women in just a moment. I know that there's a song that y'all like, so I'm going to see if I can find that song. Let's play that and lift up our energy here and get into dance mode. And then after that, we'll come back and listen to the history between these last two great Black historical women. Thank y'all so much for rocking with me. And I'm so happy that you appreciate this live and this information. It means a lot for all of us as a people. We'll be right back, y'all. Let's get into this song.
That's a safe bet. From the impossible to the it is done. The battle's already over. The victory is won. So let the strings soar. Let the heavens open wide. I got the creator of the universe on my side. It's here to stay. The morning is here. Something has to break. miracle is coming, yeah, that's a safe bet. From the impossible to the it is done, the battle's already over, the victory is won. So let the strings soar, let the heavens open wide. I got the creator of the universe on my side. It's here to stay. The morning is here. Something has to break. The morning is here. Something has broken.
Woo! Child, I'm telling you, that song get me every time. It just reminds me of, like, you know, when I used to go to church and stuff like that, being in church services and stuff. We used to have some really, really great choirs and stuff at some of the churches I used to go to, and they played all different types of styles of music. And they would play music, you know what I mean, like island music like that, because we had different choir directors and stuff that were, you know, of different backgrounds and nationality. And I remember the one church I went to, we had it was a choir director there that was of island descent, and so a lot of songs and stuff, it would give that level of energy, and that beat would be going. Child, I'm telling you, that song had me dancing. So the whole time I listened, I had to run it back twice, y'all. Thank y'all so much for sticking around. I ran it back twice because it just had me dancing. It lift your spirits, you know what I mean? But anyway, y'all, we're gonna end this, you know. I think we're gonna make it to about the 2.5 hour mark today. So we just got these two great ladies that we're going to be speaking about before we end. So now we're gonna get into Diane Abbott. Let's talk a little bit about her before we get into this video. So now we're going to be crossing the Atlantic once more to the historic halls of London. We are talking about a woman who didn't just walk into the room, she redefined the room, and her name is Diane Abbott. In 1987, Diane Abbott did the unthinkable. She became the first Black woman ever elected to the British Parliament. Think about the weight of that movement. For centuries, that building, the House of Commons, was the seat of an empire that colonized the world. It was a place where our ancestors were spoken about, but never spoken to. And then comes Diane, a daughter of a Jamaican immigrant, a graduate of Cambridge University, standing tall in a sea of faces that didn't look like hers. She didn't just get elected, she stayed. For nearly 40 years, Diane Abbott has held her seat, making her the longest serving Black member of Parliament in British history. She has been the mother of the house in every sense of the word. She has faced more online abuse and media attacks than almost any other politician in the UK. Yet, her steel spine has never bent. She has been a tireless advocate for the education of Black children, for civil liberties, and for the rights of the Windrush generation. She taught a whole nation that a Black woman's place is not just in the community, it is in the very highest level of government to bring change. Before she was a politician, she was a scholar. She proved that our brilliance can compete at the highest academic levels in the world. She started the London schools and the Black Child Initiative. She knew that if the system wouldn't teach our children their worth, we must be the ones empowered to change the curriculum. We got to point out the diversity of her struggle. While Olive Morris fought in the streets, Diane fought in the suits. She showed us that we need warriors in the boardrooms and the courtrooms just as much as we need them on the front lines with boots on the ground. So y'all, this is a very impactful and important live, right, for me and hopefully for you as well. Because as we have talked about all of these wonderful women, and we'll be finishing up with these two right here, we see that across this big, beautiful globe, despite what countries we may live in, Black women have, since the very beginning, been fighting for change and have successfully brought that said change to the world that we live in today. So let's go ahead and get into this video real quick, y'all, with Diane Abbott and learn a little bit about her. And I will meet y'all in the chat.
Hope everyone is ready. Let's get started. Now, moving on to Britain's first black female member of parliament, Diane Abbott. By the time Diane had been elected in 1987, she was already used to being in institutions where there was no one like herself. Starting as early as being the only black girl in her grammar school and one of the 3 black students attending Newham College in Cambridge and one of the only black women seniors working for the government home office. Dan remained undiscouraged. But before we go any further, let me take you back to 1953 and September 27th of that year. This was the day Diane Julie Abbott would enter the world, born to Jamaican parents in Paddington, an area in central London. Her father was a welder and her mother was a nurse. Young Diane would attend Harrow County School for Girls, and according to encyclopedia.com, Diane displayed a very open and honest personality from a young age. After feeling frustrated with an unchallenging English class, Abbott informed her teacher that she would study the assigned books on her own instead, and unsurprisingly went on to achieve an A with little involvement from her teacher. Abbott would go on to study history at the Newham College in Cambridge, but she stated in an interview with the Times her teachers from her school were not so encouraging of her applying to Cambridge, stating her history teacher had tried to deter Abbott from applying, claiming it would give her ambitions outside of her social station. However, Abbott remained determined nonetheless. Abbott said from a young age she had an interest in reading novels, and in those novels the characters all went to Oxford and Cambridge, and she was inspired to want to attend those institutes also. Her fascination grew further when on a school trip to Cambridge College she was amazed by all the students in their striped Cambridge scarves, comparing them to princes and princesses. Right there and then her mind was made up and she knew that was where she belonged. Abbott was the first in her family to complete higher education past the age of 14 and completed 4 A levels, which were an advanced level qualification in the UK. She studied art, religious education, English and history. Even though the requirement was only 3 subjects, she had a passion for learning and chose to study 4. However, during her studies, she found that there was a lack of subject matter around Black history, and a wanted interest grew to know more in this area. After university, Abbott took a job at the National Council for Civil Liberties. Unsurprisingly, she was the first Black employee. In an interview with the Times, Diane stated that she found it very uneasy being in a setting full of people falling over backwards to be nice to her because she was Black. Going on further to say, it also gave her a lasting distaste for the race relations industry and hypocrisy of making a living out of race. Next, Abbott tried the television industry, working as a researcher for Thames Television and then a reporter for TV-AM. During this time, she was a member of the Association for Cinematography, Television and Allied Technicians, and in 1985, the union offered her a job as equality officer. Abbott later moved into governmental public relations, working as press and public relations officer for the Greater London Council, and later as a principal press officer for Lambeth Borough Council. Abbott's career in politics began in 1982 when she was elected to Westminster City Council, serving for 4 years until 1986. In between that time, in 1983, she was active in the Labour Party Black Sections movement, campaigning for greater African Caribbean and Asian political representation. Abbott would become the first Black woman to become a member of parliament in 1987. Now thrusted into a position where more eyes were on her, she found that the British press, who are known for its ruthlessness, was tracking her every move, and it did not take much time before she became the center of news coverage. In the same interview with the Times, Abbott stated for the first 6 months it was very overwhelming. What particularly surprised her, Abbott explained, was the fact that even her party colleagues had read the papers and believed the allegations. Abbott recalled a time when she was in the tea room and the Scottish MP said, "You don't belong here," in a way that made her feel taken back by the aggression. Diane Abbott stood for equality, but that same treatment was not shown to her. Diane would later go on to give birth to her son in October 1991, but received no maternity leave and had to attend Parliament and vote throughout her pregnancy, giving birth and returning to work 8 days later. As we all know, as part of being a public figure, you are subject to being the brunt of the public's frustration, but the abuse Abbott received was different. She wrote about receiving racial and sexist abuse online every day. An Amnesty International report found that Abbott was the subject of almost half of all the abusive tweets about female MPs on Twitter during a 2017 election campaign, receiving 10 times more abuse than any other MP. Now, some may feel discouraged and want to quit, but not Abbott. She knew why she had entered into politics, and she was not going to be pushed out by anyone. Earlier in 2008, Abbott gave a speech on civil liberties in a debate on the counter-terrorism bill. Her speech would go on to win the Spectator magazine's Parliament Speech of the Year award and gain further recognition at the 2008 Human Rights Award. You can find a clip to her speech in the description in this video. Diane gave a speech in the House of Commons, an institute responsible for making laws and checking the work of the government. Her speech was on the Caribbean, and it was included in Margaret Buxby's 2019 anthology called New Daughters of Africa. Margaret Yvonne Buxby was Britain's youngest and first black female book publisher. Abbott is also the founder of the London Schools and the Black Child's Initiative, which aims to raise educational achievement levels amongst black children. In 2020, Abbott was invited to participate in Strictly Come Dancing, a celebrity-themed dance competition, but refused. Speaking on BBC Radio 4's Today programme, she stated that she refused the invitation and instead said that she would continue to do what she has done all her life, speaking up for human rights, civil liberties, women's rights, and representing the people of the community. In September 2020, an biography of Diane was released, titled Diane Abbott, Authorized Biography. And if you ever visited the Cambridge College and go to the college library, you will find a Black Cantab exhibition which features 14 photographs of black Cambridge history makers, including Diane Abbott. To sum this up, I have to say I admire her endurance and tenacity after years of having to put up with so much. More light needs to be shone on what she has achieved and stood for. So I hope you share this amongst your family and friends. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below and come back tomorrow for the next part in our series. Please subscribe.
All right, y'all. So I just want to go ahead and start off with that cute little videos there. I like watching content and videos like that, and I'm going to tell y'all exactly why, especially when it comes to like the animated and the cartoons, because when it comes to like history and education or whatnot, a lot of times, you know, we all may be individuals that have children. Y'all know that I have a son, right? And it's very important for me to allow him to be able to be taught the history the same way that sometimes I may be learning it. And when it comes to kids, they like the colors, they like the cartoons, you know, they're more susceptible to sit down and pay attention and watch. And so I like to make a mixture of that sometimes when I do my lives when it comes to some of these impertinent lessons, because kids will find themselves gravitated to watching that type of content because it's a cartoon. They think it's a cartoon, but it's historical, it's educational. And so I like to mix a little bit of that in, you know. But I know for us as adults and stuff, sometimes we may not always want to watch, you know, stuff like with cartoons and, you know, characters and things of that nature. But that's the reason why I like to incorporate that. And a lot of time when I'm doing my lives, as y'all can hear sometimes in the background, my son is out here and he watches, he comes and he listens and pay attention to the things that, you know, I'm doing. Now, if it's certain things, he's not around for that. And y'all know what those things are. But things as far as education and history, it's okay. You know what I'm saying? If he comes around and he wants to listen and engage in that. And the cartoon kind of, you know, imagery of these history lessons, it draws him in. And I know some of y'all out there, you may also have kids as well, you know? So I do like that you can get two different, you know, dynamics when it comes to lessons in history, you know. But let's go ahead and get into this. Again, this is still with Diane Abbott. This one is more so for us as adults. And it, you know, we'll speak about it and break it down in a way, you know, more so of adults will be able to probably pay better attention to. But the cartoon version, I put that on for a purpose, y'all. So anyway, let's go ahead and get into this. And this is a short one. And so this is about 6 minutes. And after we're done this, we'll be moving on to Zadie Smith. And then after that, we'll give a lot of our final thoughts and talking points about what we, you know, all learned and witnessed here on the live today. And we'll wrap it up. All right. So let's go ahead and get into this, y'all. I'll meet y'all in the chat.
In 1987, a historic general election took place in which the UK elected its first black members of parliament. They were Bernie Grant in Tottenham, Paul Boateng in Brent South, and in Hackney North and Stoke Newington, there was 33-year-old Diane Julie Abbott.
That is say Diane Julie Abbott has been duly...
So a very good vote there for Labour, Diane Abbott.
Making her the UK's first black woman MP. But this was not the first time that Diane had stood out from her peers. At Harrow County School for Girls, Abbott was the only black girl in her class. And despite attempts by teachers to dissuade her from applying, upon being accepted into Cambridge to study history, she was the only black British student from a state school in the entire university. She is now the longest serving black MP in the House of Commons. But this hasn't come without its moments, such as the infamous Mojito Gate, where she publicly apologized after an image surfaced of her drinking an M&S Mojito can on the train, technically breaking the law, subsequently leading to M&S Mojito cans selling out all over the country. But there have been far more serious incidents involving Diane Abbott. Following her election in 1987, a brick was thrown through the office window of her local party, as well as fellow Labour Party members leaking information to Michael Crick, a Channel 4 news reporter, that she was crying in a restaurant toilet, and a lot of online abuse. So much so that a 2017 investigation into which women politicians received the most abuse online omitted her from the findings, as the disproportionate amount of abuse she received skewed the results. Diane Abbott received almost half of all abusive tweets in the run-up to the 2017 election, nearly 10 times more than any other woman MP. But that same 2017 election, Abbott won her biggest ever majority in Hackney North and Stoke Newington, getting 75% of the vote. And in 2019, she got over 70% of the vote. Her constituents have always massively supported her. For the last 9 general elections, only twice has she received less than half of the total votes, largely for all she has done for her constituency. The London Borough of Hackney is today a national leader in schooling, but in 2002, less than a third of students received 5 or more GCSE A-star to C grades. But in just 12 years, that figure rose to 61%, above the national average, possible through investment into brand new schools, such as Mossbourne Academy and the City Academy. Not rebranded failing schools, but new schools, built to the highest architectural and design standards, flagship schools of which the whole community could be proud. Abbott is also the founder of the London Schools and the Black Child Initiative, which aims to primarily tackle exclusion rates and low attainment levels amongst black children in order to raise educational achievement. Hackney also became London's most livable borough. No other London borough has undertaken so many transport, street, and urban design interventions that are so focused on creating a livable and active borough as Hackney has. More residents cycle to work in Hackney than any London borough, and it has the highest ratio of female to male cyclists, as well as new and improved London Overground lines to enhance transport links throughout the area. This is all further strengthened by her work in Parliament, where her policy priorities, though broad, have been focused on police reform and anti-racism. In 1992, she delivered a speech standing up for the Black and minority ethnic NHS workers who helped build our health service. In 2008, her speech in opposition of proposals for a 42-day pre-charge detention, where terror suspects could be detained for up to 42 days without actual charge, won the Spectator magazine's Parliamentary Speech of the Year award, and she received further recognition at the 2008 Human Rights Awards for her brilliant advocacy in defense of women's right to abortion in Northern Ireland. When discussing the importance of having people of color in senior positions, she stated, "You can't be what you can't see." The fact young people have been able to see Black and brown people as members of Parliament helps them to think that they could do it too. Diane Abbott shattered the proverbial glass ceiling, and regardless of whether you agree with her on all fronts, her influence for many people in Britain is unequivocal.
All right, y'all. So that was just a bit of information in that video, that second video that I wanted to show y'all when it comes to excuse me. I don't mean to cough. So this is why I have something in my throat. But when it came to Diane Abbott, I'm sorry, y'all. So we need to wrap our hearts around the monumental legacy of Diane Abbott. We aren't just talking about a politician. We're talking about a fortress. When Diane Abbott stepped into the British House of Commons in 1987, she wasn't just representing a district in London. She was carrying the hopes, the dreams, and the ancestors of an entire Windrush generation. For centuries, that building was the headquarters of an empire that colonized our lands. And then there stood Diane, a Black woman, brilliant, Cambridge educated, and unapologetic. The importance of Diane Abbott in global politics is her endurance. For nearly 40 years, she has been the most targeted, most abused, and most scrutinized woman in British public life. They tried to break her spirit with headlines. They tried to bury her voice with vitriol. But like a diamond under pressure, she only became harder and brighter. She taught us that representation is not a decoration, it is a duty. She didn't just sit in Parliament. She used her seat to fight for education of Black children who the system tried to throw away. She used her seat to defend the elders who were being wrongly deported. She proved that Black women in power is the ultimate shield for the community. Diane Abbott is the architect of the modern Black British identity. She showed us that you can walk into the highest halls of power, keep your natural hair, keep your radical truth, and keep your seat for 4 decades. She is the mother of the house who made it possible for every Black woman in the UK to even dream of leading. She is the proof that consistency is actually a superpower. She stood in rooms where she was the only one, so that today our daughters can walk in those same rooms and be one of many. We salute the woman who took the arrows so we can take the lead. So now, y'all, we are going to be moving on to our final woman of the live that we'll be speaking about, also a UK woman, and that will be Zadie Smith. So now we're going from the halls of Parliament into the sanctuary of the mind. If Diane Abbott broke the laws of the land, Zadie Smith broke the laws of the imagination. She is the literary queen who took the complex, beautiful, multicolored reality of Black British life and made a whole world stop and read. So let's get into it, y'all. As we stay in the UK, we're moving from the podium to the pen. We are honoring a woman who became a global phenomenon before she even turned 25. And yes, like I said, her name is Zadie Smith. Imagine being a young Black woman in North London, capturing the heartbeat of your neighborhood, the accents, the struggles, the joy, and the beautiful mess of our culture, and putting it into a book that will change literature forever. This is exactly what Zadie did with her debut novel, White Teeth. She didn't just write a story. She drew a map of the modern Black British soul. At a time where the world wanted to simplify us, Zadie showed that we are very complex. She showed that we are intellectuals, we are immigrants, we are dreamers, and we are the very fabric of the nation. Zadie Smith is more than just a writer. She is a cultural visionary. She spent over 20 years as a professor, an essayist, and a novelist, proving that a Black woman's perspective is the highest form of art. She taught the world that our everyday lives, our conversations in the butcher shop, our prayers in the living room, our laughter on the bus are worthy of being studied in the greatest universities on earth. She didn't just give us a voice, she gave us prestige. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to listen to a little bit about Zadie Smith here in just a moment. But I want y'all to remember the voice of New London captured Dharendra's legacy, meeting the modern world. She showed that we aren't just guests in the United Kingdom, we are the authors of its future. When it comes to intellectual royalty, as a professor at NYU and a constant voice in the global literary scene, she proves that Black women are leading thinkers of the 21st century. The guardian of identity, she writes about the in-between spaces, being biracial, being an immigrant, being a woman. She gives a home to everyone who has ever felt like they just didn't quite fit into one box. See the unity here. When it comes to Marianne Shadd, she used her newspaper to free the mind in Canada. When it comes to Zadie Smith, she uses her novels to expand the mind in the UK and beyond. One woman used the press in the 1800s, and the other uses bestsellers list in the 2000s. It's the same ancestral genius, just a different century. We are a global powerhouse of intellectual fire. And yes, it comes from Black people, more specifically, Black women. Zadie Smith says our stories are masterpieces. I want you to type, "My story matters." Her quote. We can put that in our journals. We can put that in this chat. We can write that wherever we decide to write it to keep us remembering that our stories matter. So yeah, we are honoring that woman who made the world see our beauty through the ink of her pen. Right after this song break, y'all, we're going to go ahead and get into this video and learn a little bit more about Zadie Smith. Let me go ahead and put this song on so we can get our bop and our dance on and uplift our energy, and we will get into that video right after that.
stands at the gate where the song meets the sky. Standing tall, yeah. Not with a sword, but with a light held high. Light for the world. She doesn't ask for your gold or your pride. She just says, come on in, I've got a room inside. I got room for you. She's the mother of exiles, the heart of the babe. She's watching us. Through the storm and the shadows, she's pointing the way. Over the way. From the storied pomp of the ancient lands to the future we hold in our shaking hands. We're holding on. We're holding on. Holding on. Holding on. Holding on. Holding on. Give me your time. Lord, give them to me. Give me your pour. Bring them to the shore. The heart of passage yearning to the free. We're gonna breathe again. We go home. Yes. In the tempest toss. In my head. Inside the golden door. The door is open. No matter the struggle, no matter the war. We are the people she's waiting for. I live my life. I'm holding it for you. Beside the golden door. We're gonna be okay. Faith is our fire. Amen. Yeah, yeah, amen. Ooh. Give me your tire. Give me your pour. Your heart of passage into the free. We're gonna breathe again. Ooh. She stands at the gate where the song meets the sky. Standing tall, yeah. Not with a sword, but with a light held high. Light for the world. She doesn't ask for your gold or your pride. She just says, come on in, I've got a room inside. I got room for you. She's the mother of exiles, the heart of the babe. She's watching us. Through the storm and the shadows, she's pointing the way. Over the way. From the storied pomp of the ancient lands to the future we hold in our shaking hands. We're holding on. We're holding on. Holding on. Holding on. Holding on. Holding on. Give me your tire. Lord, give them to me. Give me your pour. Bring them to the shore. The heart of passage yearning to the free. We're gonna breathe again. We go home. Yes. In the tempest toss. In my head. Inside the golden door. The door is open. No matter the struggle, no matter the war. We are the people she's waiting for. I live my life. I'm holding it for you. Beside the golden door. We're gonna be okay. Faith is our fire. Amen. Yeah, yeah, amen. Ooh. Amen.
All right, y'all. So I hope y'all like that song right there. That's that song I made. It's called Lady Liberty. It's basically about, um, as you can hear in the lyrics, right? The Lady Liberty and what that means and what that represents, and how a lot of people, I think, we're in a place right now where some people are feeling as though, that representation and that monument is no longer meaning anything. But we don't allow these people to tell us what matters and what doesn't matter to us. What stands true will always stand true. Okay. So let's go ahead now and just get into this video with Zadie Smith. So this video will be, again, like I said, one of the versions is kind of with the animated cartoon version, which, sometimes we like that as adults, but it also is great if you have children, right? And you want to teach them some history or, things of that nature. They're very much drawn to it with the colors and the characters. My son loves it. So I play some of those, but we also will be listening to Zadie Smith as well. One of her videos from just a year ago, because she has published another book. And so we can also hear directly from her. She is still with us. So let's go ahead and get into this video that's going to break down who she is, her movement, and her history. And I will meet y'all in the chat.
Hello, everyone. Glad to see you all back for another week in our Insightful Classroom series for Black History Month. As you have probably noticed on the board, the theme for this week is going to be around Black history in Britain. As usual, we take 5 individuals, research who they were, their impact on Black history, and present them here for you to learn more about. Hope everyone is ready. Let's get started. First, we begin with 5-time award-winning British author Zadie Smith. Smith debuted her first novel in the year 2000. It immediately became a bestseller, but this was just the start. Born Sadie Adeline Smith on the 25th of October 1975 to Jamaican mother Yvonne Bailey and an English father, Harvey Smith. They lived in Willesden in an area in northwest London, and Smith attended the local schools, Mallory's Junior School and Hampstead Comprehensive School. As a child, Smith was fond of tap dancing, even considering a career in musical theatre in her teenage years. At the age of 14, Sadie would change her name to Zadie, feeling it sounded more exotic. After completing early education, Smith would go on to attend the University of Cambridge, where she would study English literature. Outside of education, Smith had a passion for music, jazz music in fact, and regularly sang and performed jazz music while she was not studying. At Cambridge, she would begin writing and wrote several short stories for the university's publication, the Maze Anthology, which was a collection of literary tales written by students. Smith's love for writing at that time would birth one of her most famous books, White Teeth. The book was set in the working class suburbs of Willesden in northwest London, where Smith was born, and the novel followed the lives of fictional best friends Archie Jones and Samar Iqbal. Archie was a down on his luck Englishman whose failed suicide attempt opens up the novel. Samad was a Bengali Muslim who struggled to fit in with British society. The story spans across 50 years of their lives and details the trials and tribulations of their family. Smith would submit her work to an agent and gain instant buzz, which ensued a frenzied bidding war, and her book eventually was sold to Hamish Hamilton. Then in the year 2000, it was published with rave reviews, with some critics hailing Smith as a modern-day Charles Dickens. Her work would win numerous awards, including the Whitbread First Novel Award, and was a finalist for the National Books Critique Circle Award and the Orange Prize for Fiction. The novel was adapted for television in the year 2002 and made into a single series made up of 4-hour-long episodes. Smith's second novel, The Autograph Man, was published that same year and was another commercial success. The novel focused on public obsession with celebrities and pop culture and followed the story of a Jewish Chinese Londoner named Alex Lee Tandem who buys and sells autographs for a living and is obsessed with celebrities. A year later, in 2003, the novel would go on to win the Jewish Quarterly Wingate Literary Prize. After the publication of The Autograph Man, Smith visited and lived in the United States for a period of time. There, she would write her third novel titled On Beauty. The book is set largely in and around the greater Boston area and focuses on the cultural wars and racial and ethical overlap in the liberal college town. The book was published in September 2005 and attracted more acclaim than The Autograph Man, going on to be shortlisted for the Mans Booker Prize and winning the 2006 Orange Prize for Fiction and the Anisfield Wolf Book Award. Later in the same year, Smith published the book Martha and Hanwell. The book was based on two short stories about two troubled children. The first story, Martha and Martha, deals with Smith's familiar themes of race and post-colonial identities, while Hanwell in Hell is about a man struggling to cope with the death of his wife. Some years later, Smith published the novel NW. It was set in the Kilburn area of northwest London. The title is a reference to the local postcode in that area, NW6. The theme of the book centers on different socio-economical classes, the lower and higher end working classes, and follows four individuals who represent these differences. NW was made into a BBC television film and broadcast on the 14th of November in 2016. In her fifth novel, Springtime, published in the same year, Smith continued to explore issues of class and race, following the story of two childhood friends who both aspire to be dancers, but whose lives take dramatically different turns. Zadie has been featured in a number of articles and praised for her ability to tackle class, culture, and color in reference to the world we live in today. As we come to the end of this first part, I'd love to know if any of you have read any of Sadie Smith's books. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below and come back tomorrow for the next part in our series. Please subscribe to be in the know when the video drops, and in the meantime, you can check out one of our other videos.
All right, y'all. So that was just a little brief, short video, like I said, in the animation format, just in case you happen to be watching or listening, and maybe you got, your kids with you, your grandkids, your nieces and nephews. As y'all hear, my son, he be running back and forth, sometimes when I'm on my lives. And when I was watching these videos earlier, he literally sat there and stood there and watched the entire thing. And so I realized he was learning, and it's the animation and the colors and stuff like that that really draw the children in. And I want this to be, on certain lives, the things that I do, family friendly content. So if you do have your kid with you, you can watch this. There's some times where maybe it's not family friendly, and we may be talking about some other things, but on this type of information, yeah, I do want to make sure that this can be family friendly, especially for children as well, because I believe one of the most important things for us to do is not only educate ourselves about the history, but we also have to pass this history and this information, this intellect down to the youth and the children. So now let's go ahead and hear directly from Zadie, because she is actually still with us, and this video is just from a year ago. She also has another novel that she has just put out, and I want y'all to listen to how she speaks and some of the things that she will speak on, as far as her experience and her reasoning for writing the novel she does, and the way that she writes them, and her entire movement when it comes to her activism. So let's go ahead and get into this video together, y'all, and I will meet y'all in the chat per usual.
Today on Arts 24, one of the most popular and critically acclaimed authors of her generation. More than 20 years after bursting onto the literary scene with her debut novel White Teeth, Zadie Smith's sixth book, The Fraud, is out in French, based on real events in Victorian England. Zadie Smith, hello, I'm so happy to meet you. Nice to meet you too. Before we get into the book, I wanted to ask you about Paris. You said New York is your favourite city. You recently moved back to London after living in New York for a while. I wondered, what does Paris mean to you?
It's when my parents came here on honeymoon, but it was a problem because they were black and white. It was 1975. And then I came here with my brother in the 90s, and it was a problem again, trying to get into a club. So I didn't really have a relationship with Paris. And then I started working for NYU and coming here every summer. And then I fell in love. I always thought Italy was my country because I speak Italian and I lived in Rome. I had that English parochial feeling about Paris, like part jealousy, part fear. But now I absolutely love it. And part of the reason for moving back to America was to be near Europe.
Well, Hemingway and Fitzgerald spent a lot of time here in Paris. I've seen actually you sometimes compare to them because they had this status of being literary stars. I wondered what you think of that status today, nearly 25 years since your first book, White
Hemingway shot himself in the face and Fitzgerald drank himself to death. So I'm trying to avoid whatever that is. I'm almost 50. It seems very distant to me. And, there's lots of new debut novelists who can take that mantle. I would just say, I said to myself, and I would say to them, do your work. There's not much point in being a so-called celebrity writer if you can't write.
You completed your first novel while you were at university, and White Teeth was published in 2000. You were only 24. Do you remember sort of the period before that and the period after when things changed for you?
I absolutely remember going to a cash machine on the Kilburn High Road and taking out £10 instead of £5, and then realizing I might even take out £100 and nothing desperate was going to happen. So for me, it was an absolute existential difference, overnight, it's a weird thing to happen to a person. I was able to pay my mother's mortgage. It's the first time anyone in our family ever owned something outright. This is a massive difference. But to me, it was a bit more seamless in that I'd been in college and then I wrote a book, and then my actual practical experience of life involves sitting in a room in front of the Microsoft Word program for the past 25 years.
And you were first published at the start of the century, the start of a new millennium. At the time you said it felt like it was going to be the beginning of something new for working class Black British writers. Do you think it was?
It's undeniable that the landscape has transformed. Like, I'm no longer the only Black person in a literary room, not by a long shot. But a lot of that, when you actually look at it, is West African writers, West African upper middle class writers. It might look to, I think, white people in the literary world that there's a big change, but when I look at it, I see what was always there. That's not the same as people I come from, who remain for the most part poor and in bad schools. So that change has not been as large as I would like it to have been. There are incredible people like Candace Carty-Williams, there's Caleb Nelson as well, but a lot of them are upper middle class people and or Africans, yeah.
Well, you're in Paris because your sixth book, The Fraud, is being released in French. Why did you resist the historical novel for so long, and what changed?
It's not that I resist it, it's just that I had to do it my own way. Like, I think just on principle, I don't like to do something that's already been done. Sometimes I write where I keep quiet for a long time, like sometimes 5, 6, 7 years, and I just listen to what people are saying about something. And it was the same with the 19th century. I sat in my classrooms in New York and with friends and just in the general culture listening to this version of the 19th century. Because two stories were being told simultaneously. One was that was a backward and repressed time, and we are like the perfected example of those backward people. And in the same breath, people will say, but this is the worst time that's ever existed. So I was just curious, how can it be both? How can we be living in the end of days and also be a great improvement on these terrible, repressed, ignorant people of the 19th century?
Well, lots of things weren't actually that different by the sounds of it. The background of the book is a trial where we hear about a populist hero whipping up support with conspiracy theories and fake news. There are debates about race.
Yeah.
And the responsibility of the privileged. How much were contemporary politics on your mind while you were writing this?
Politics were on my mind, and the relation of power, just how powerful people with money behave towards the poor. And that doesn't change that much, for sure. But there are reasons for optimism. Like, I'm telling a story about 400 years of racialized capital in the form of slavery. But I'm also telling a story about 400 years of opposition to exactly that situation. from working people of Birmingham, Manchester, London, middle-class women boycotting sugar, actual anti-slavery activists, the slaves themselves rebelling every few years, mass petitions. You know, it's both a story of horror and a story of mass action.
And the book is mostly set in London. There is a part that is set in Jamaica where we hear about one slave's experiences. You grew up in London with a Jamaican mum and a white British father. This is the first time you've written head-on about slavery.
Everything I write is about the diaspora, the fact of it. It's just an extraordinary historical rupture, an enormous continent which might have developed in, well, who knows, a myriad of different ways. Its timeline was disrupted. So I've always been interested in it, obviously from a personal point of view, because that history is why I exist, but just because it's so central to the formation of the modern world.
And there's a host of real historical characters in the book. The central character is called Eliza Touche. She thinks very freely. She's quite unconventional. Why and how did she become the main voice in the book?
Because when I was researching it, she's the person who there's the least paper trail about. You know, when you have a dinner in London, just like email, people would send many, many letters in a day because the post was so incredibly efficient. Quite often when they're organizing this dinner, Thackeray will ask Dickens or Dickens will ask Wilkie Collins, is Mrs. Touche going to be there? I was like, why are they so concerned about whether this housekeeper is going to be at the table? And it's a sense of anxiety. Like, is she going to be there? Do I have to sit next to her? Oh, you know how she is. And I'm like, well, how was she? This is fascinating. Why was she someone a bit prickly that you wanted to avoid? Grown men were scared of at a dinner party. So that was kind of the spark of it. I was just fascinated thinking about this woman who was significant enough for Dickens to sign a book for and spend a lot of time with. He spent a lot of time with her.
And you write at one point in the book, the humiliations of girlhood, the separating of the beautiful from the plain and the ugly, the terror of maidenhood, the trials of marriage or childbirth or their absence, the loss of that same beauty around which the whole system appears to revolve, the change of life, what strange lives women lead. Not much has changed,
no,
but has it?
That part's pretty consistent. But again, to be too cynical about a lack of change is really dangerous because it's apolitical. The fact is, if I look at Eliza's life compared to mine, I have, for the most part, my full civil rights. I own my own property. It belongs to me. My children are mine and cannot be taken from me without reason by their father or the state. These are enormous differences, in fact. I can work, I can demand, it is enshrined in law, whether it happens, it doesn't always happen, that I will be paid equal to my male counterparts. These are not, to say, as some people often do, oh, nothing changes, is to really dismiss and pour scorn on 200 years of feminist activism, which has created quite a monumental amount of change, actually. So when I'm writing, I'm trying to keep that balance of knowing that, of course, there are problems that are eternal. The menopause isn't going anywhere, but things do change. Conditions around it change.
You've said you've always been fascinated by the sex life of the English. Eliza has a complicated and romantic life, as many of the characters do. Can you tell me more about that?
I think we have a strange reputation, I mean, compared to the French, obviously, or the Swedish, or all these supposedly sex-positive nations. I think most Europeans would agree that English are the strangest. Isn't that fair? It's the strangest sexual life because it's so masked, but it's no less active, is my point. I think that was what was amusing me talking sometimes to students, is they had this very odd idea that sex was their own invention. Of course, as you think about it, looking back to my youth and then the boomers before.
All right, y'all. So I just wanted to go ahead and play a little bit of that interview there with Zadie Smith, because she is sitting down. Again, this was an interview from a year ago. She was sitting down and having a conversation on her latest book, where y'all see I just put the link in the comments if any of you guys are interested. It is available on audiobook, right? Reading by her voice, which I love. Her voice is beautiful. I love people who have like a UK accent, but you know, child, you from one place, you think somebody else got an accent, and they think you got an accent, but they don't see themselves as having an accent. But whatever, we know how accents go, child. But I love people's voice from the United Kingdom, and so this audio book that Zadie Smith has, The Fraud, that this is the most recent from her from 1 year ago. It is available on Audible. So if you guys want to, check into that, I got the link there in the comment section. That link will take you actually directly to all of her books and all of her literature is all on that page. So you won't only just find that book, The Fraud, but you'll also find a lot of the other literature that she has as well. And so I'm going to go ahead and stop that right there, y'all. I just want you to hear a little bit from her, how she speaks, what she's talking about, her mindset a little bit. And again, like, she is still with us, just as we have, hold on, y'all, let me run back to my notes as well. Diane Abbott, she is also still with us as well. So these are two historic and iconic women that we have covered on this live today, but they are still with us, still alive. The others, unfortunately, are not. And so with some final thoughts here when it comes to Zadie Smith, okay? We aren't just talking about an author. We are talking about a literary architect. Zadie Smith did something revolutionary. She took the ordinary lives of Black and brown people in North London and turned them into high art. When she released White Teeth at just the age of 24 years old, she didn't just write a best-selling novel. She shifted the global axis of literature. She proved that our slang, our family secrets, our immigrant struggles, and our specific brand of joy are worthy of the world's biggest stages and most prestigious awards. Our stories are just as great as anybody else's story. Her importance is her intellectual sovereignty. Zadie teaches us that we don't have to translate ourselves for the world to understand us. She writes with a confidence that says, this is our world, and it's beautiful, it's complex, and it's brilliant. By serving as a professor at NYU and leading essayist, she has spent decades showing our daughters and even sons that Black women's minds is a national treasure. She is still, like I said, very much alive today, living between London and New York City, which she has said herself, continuing to release groundbreaking novels and essays that challenge how we see race, identity, and the future. She is a living legend, teaching the next generation of writers that their voice is the most powerful tool they own. She is the proof that our stories are the heartbeat of the world. I also want to go ahead with some final thoughts here and talk about the 2026 baton pass, from icons to visionaries. Now, let's get into the media and the truth torch when it comes to Canada. Y'all know on this live, we talked about earlier Marianne Shadd from 1823 to 1893. Now, if we want to compare that to some of the current visionaries that we have, that the baton was picked up by, we can speak on Kesia Bebel, who is a digital journalist and media strategist. In the 1950s, Marianne used a printing press to give our people a voice in Canada. In 2026, Ketia is using digital platforms and fellowship to ensure Black Canadian stories aren't just told, but are owned. She is the modern provincial Freeman, making sure the truth is unbought and unbossed. Then we'll move on to the warrior and strategist torch, Jamaica Globals. So y'all remember, we talked about Queen Nanny of the Maroons from the late 1600s to 1733. If we compare that to a 2026 visionary, we could talk about Major General Lorna Mala, who is still alive and active. Queen Nanny used the mountains to defend her people. Today, Jamaican-born Lorna Mala is a major general in the United States Marines, and she is a leader in cybersecurity. She is defending nations on the digital battlefield with the same tactical brilliance that Nanny used in the Blue Mountains. She is a living symbol of Black female military genius. Then we'll move on to the soul and the voting torch in the US. Remember the historic icon Fannie Lou Hamer from 1917 to 1977. Well, in current day time of 2026, our visionary that we have, and I think y'all will agree with me as well, is Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, who is still very much alive and active, and I watch her almost every day. Fannie Lou was sick and tired of the silence in Mississippi. Today, we see Jasmine Crockett is the firebrand of the United States Congress. She uses her unfiltered voice to call out injustice and protect voting rights with the same raw honesty that Fannie Lou used at the DNC. She is the soul of the movement in 2026. Then we can move on to the community and the grassroots torch in the United Kingdom. We spoke about Olive Morris, 1952 to 1979. A comparison in 2026 as far as a visionary could be Louis German Wilson, who is still alive and active. Olive Morris was a squatter for justice who reclaimed space for the community. In 2026, Huey German Wilson is a powerhouse of community revitalization and environmental justice. She carries that same neighborhood first energy, proving that the local struggle is the heart of global change. And then we'll get into the power and the prestige torch, also from the UK, with Diane Abbott. And Diane Abbott is still alive and active, but we do have young women that are coming up under her because they've been inspired. And that's what it's about. Be inspired and know that you can do it too. So we can speak on Afua Kiai, who is also still alive and active. Diane Abbott broke the ceiling in 1987 and is still serving in Parliament today, fighting for civil liberties. Standing beside her in 2026 is Afua Kiai, the CFO of the Bank of England. While Diane conquered the podium, Afua has conquered the vote. Together, they show that Black women are architects of both law and economy. So, in my final thoughts for this live, y'all, let's look at the lineage. From the 1700s to 2026, we have never stopped building. We have never stopped fighting. And most importantly, we have never stopped being one united front. Whether you are in the United States, in a state such as North Carolina, like me, or in the United Kingdom, in places like London, or in Canada, in places like Toronto, or in Jamaica, in places like Kingston, we are part of a global tapestry of excellence. Despite the efforts to divide us by borders, we are proud, we are resilient, and we are staying united. We are the daughters of Nanny, the sisters of Olive, and the mothers of the 2026 visionaries. We are the future. Let the world know that the baton has been caught and the race is being won. And our global crown has never shone brighter than what it is showing today, despite all of the things that we are struggling through and going through. We remain strong. We remain intelligent. We remain the future, and we will continue to do it. Absolutely, Imani. Stacey Abrams. So many people, right? So many names that I can name. And so I feel as though, when I come back, on my next live or whatnot, I will actually bring up some of these names that I just mentioned. And, the younger generation or our current generation right now that have picked up the batons, I will mention their names and their movements as well, so we can celebrate them equally, because that's what it's about, right? We look back at history and the historical figures that started the movement. And yeah, unfortunately, majority and a lot of them are not here with us anymore, but we do have some that are still here. And when it comes to passing the baton, we're going to carry it forth. And we'll be our generation that do what we can do while we're here. And then we will pass the baton on to the younger generation that comes after us. And that is how it works. I do have one final thing that I want to tell y'all before we get up out of here. We're going to hit that 3-hour mark. I want to play this song for y'all just one more time, and we'll be right back.
Yeah. We've been the blueprint. We've been the fire. They just catching up. Cold Northwind, but she stood 10 toes. Marianne wrote true, let the whole world know. Ink hit paper, that was power in disguise. Taught us reading is the way we ride. Built the press, built the voice, built the lane. Why they hunted her, she broke every chain. Self-reliance, yeah, she stamped that code. Freedom ain't given, it's a path you won't. Jamaica hills, yeah, the spirit's alive. Queen Nanny move, make the empire high. Gorilla tactic, she was one with the land. Every move precise, yeah, she had the command. Queen drums in the wind, ancestors talk. Listen, freedom in the blood, every step that she walks. They couldn't catch her, now she moved too wide. Divine strategy, open your eyes, wake up. So loud, fanning loose to make the system bow. Bruised and beaten, but she held that line. The truth don't fold and it don't decline ever. Sick and tired, yeah, she said it plain. Spoke for the people carrying pain. No crown needed, she was still that queen. Real leadership, that's what it means. To the song and rain, crown and glory on band unchained. London streets, young fire, no fear. Ellen Morris made it crystal clear. Took them buildings, said this ours now. For the people, she ain't backing down. Boots on ground, real action talk. Short lifespan, but a giant walk. Left them up, they can't erase in time. Rebel spirit still in the bloodline. Still here. Parliament doors, Diane held strong. Only one there, but she still belong. Fact, decades deep, yeah, she paved that way. Held it open so we all can stay. Come through, said it with a pen, yeah, she paid our truth. Right, it turned our lives into literary proof. From the streets to the global stage, black stories gold on every page. From past to future, we break every chain. Crown and fire, unbent, untamed. Black women built it, respect the name. We ride. From past to future, we break every chain. Crown and fire, unbent, untamed. Respect the name. Yeah. From ink to war to voice to pen, we always been her. Always. Don't forget again.
All right, y'all. So we're going to go ahead and get ready to wrap up this live, okay? But as we prepare to log off, I want you to carry one truth in your spirit today. Our geography may be different. Our languages may vary. And our stories may have different beginnings. But our heartbeat for justice and dignity is exactly the same. So on this live, we honored the Black women who built the bridges that we walk on. We looked at Canada, we looked at the United Kingdom, we looked at the United States, and we looked at Jamaica. And we saw that even though oceans separated them, their mission was a united front. They didn't let borders divide them, and we cannot let differences divide us. We are living in a world that thrives on us versus them, a world that wants us to stay in our own little corners. But today, we proved that when we reach across those lines, when a sister that could possibly be in the United States honors a sister that is in the United Kingdom, we can become an unstoppable force. Pride is not a pie. There is enough for everyone. When we celebrate the history of one, we lift the vibration for all. I want you all to know that this is just the beginning of our journey. We started with the queens who shaped our past and our 2026. But the story of humanity is a massive tapestry. In our next live, we'll be shifting the lenses a little bit. We'll be also talking about the men, the brothers, the fathers, and the warriors that stood tall. And we aren't just stopping at one race. We're going to travel the globe and see how excellence looks in every color, from every culture, and in every corner of this world. Because at the end of the day, whether we are Black, brown, or any shade of this beautiful human family, we must stand together. We are the majority, and we must stand united. We are the architects of peace. So y'all, the baton has been passed, the light is on, and the front is officially united. Go out and be the history someone else writes about tomorrow. I love you all. I appreciate you all. And I will see y'all on the next live, where we continue to bridge the gaps of the world, one story at a time. United we stand. Thank y'all so much for your support. If y'all want, go ahead and drop a flag in the comments, a fist of strength in the comments, whatever it is you want to do, hearts, whatever support you want to show, music emojis, it is up to y'all. Let me know that y'all love the live, that y'all love the information. I appreciate y'all and all of your support. And I really will speak to y'all on the next one. Y'all know y'all see me around, y'all, because support one another is what we need to do. That's all I got for this live, y'all. Golden signing out. Y'all have a great rest of your evening, morning, afternoon, or night. I will talk to y'all on the next live. I'm out. Bye.
Gloria in excelsis. miracle is coming, yeah, that's a safe bet. From the impossible to the it is done. The battle's already over, the victory is won. So let the strings soar, let the heavens open wide. I got the creator of the universe on my side. It's here to stay. The morning is here. Something has to break. The morning is here. Something has broken. Cradle and take. Gloria in excelsis. Yeah, yeah. I've been through the fire, walked through the rain, felt that pressure, felt that pain. They told me it was over, told me just give in, but they don't know the power that's living within. Yeah, I'm looking at the mountain, telling it to move. I got a different rhythm, I got a different groove. The chains are getting heavy, well, I'm getting strong. The king is on the throne, yeah, that's where I belong. Now the night is over, I see the day. All the breakthroughs coming, it's here to stay. I face the victory, come what may. It's here to stay. Something has to break. I feel it in the air. I'm casting every burden, casting every care. One night of weeping, but the morning is bright. We're walking out of darkness and into the light. Check the track record, he never failed yet. The miracle is coming, yeah, that's a safe bet. From the